My coworkers told me to go with the muffin one.
What's the muffin one?
Well, there's these two muffins that are in an oven, and one turns to the other muffin and says, "Man, it's really hot in here." Then one of them turns back and says, "Whoa, a talking muffin!" I just thought everyone knew that joke, but they didn't, and they all really laughed at it, and I was like, "Oh, I mean, I guess so."
Welcome back to the Why Do I Talk to You podcast. I am still, for some reason, Starsheep.
You did it too. Yes, all right, I'm not alone, and I'm Dave, Gamer Dave Naple. I'm just need to pause every time now to make sure I don't mess it up.
I think I'm going to have to too now. Wonderful. You've cursed me, therefore.
Yep.
So, I think we sound pretty good right now, Dave. Huh?
I knew you were going to brag about this.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Mr. Sound Guy over there got his new mic. And he's just... We had to record right now because he had to play with his new toy.
Yeah.
It is fun. It's exciting.
I really did sort of force an episode out of Dave.
Well...
Truth be told, he was like...
I can't leave. Someone help. I want to go home.
Yeah, I am kind of keeping him enslaved for the time being. I mean, I'm sorry.
He bought me dinner,
but I'm also not really sorry. Like I was finally able to invest in a microphone that I've been wanting to invest in for months now. It seems. For any and all audiophiles who care at all, it's the Shure SM7B, and I've seen a ton of different people on the YouTube verse or even the podcast verse use this particular microphone for individual miking. So
sponsor us, Shure.
Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? So I am using that mic because I paid for it, and Dave is using the mic that we were using previously. We were sharing it before, which is why you probably heard a lot of like room noise and whatnot. Whatever, you don't care. I care though. I care.
It's true. It really
and this
does.
is half of my podcast, so I'm going to talk about it. But you know what? Now I'm done because now I feel like a jerk. Hi, Dave. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm here on this Flareon BM.
That's not what it's called.
It's the Flareon bowel movement.
That's definitely not what it's called.
And it's a wonderful shade of blue. I really like it.
It is a wonderful shade of blue. It is nice. And Dave also has a pop filter over his mic too.
Because I'm irresponsible and can't be trusted, really.
Well, that has nothing to do with a pop filter, but it does make him look a little more professional, I think.
Yeah, I feel more professional. It gives me a nice spot to like aim my voice into. It's good.
Can blow air as much as you want in there too. Isn't that beautiful? This is exactly what
background breeze effects for our wonderful.
Exactly what everybody signed up for.
Ocean themed episode today. I can give you some nice calypso breezes.
So this is I'm gonna just keep going on. This is gonna be our 5th episode. So happy 5 episode anniversary, Dave.
Happy 5th anniversary.
We are currently looking into different ventures as far as this podcast goes, because we are expecting that by this 5th episode's release, we're gonna have hordes and hordes of fans. So we're thinking of investing in a website. I already have, or at least trying to get some of our other podcast episodes up on iTunes, because it actually doesn't seem that hard to do.
It just takes a little bit of upfront investment.
Yeah. And so, when that is up, we'll let everybody know, all fan who wants to check this out.
Hopefully
on
it'll
iTunes.
be up by the time this goes up.
Hopefully.
If it's not, I'll be kind of disappointed, honestly.
I sent in the request sometime last week. I imagine they get tons of requests every day because they have to actually make sure that it's legit and that it's not just a bunch of spam, I'm sure. And I get it too. So hopefully that'll be up on iTunes by the time this particular episode is up, and hopefully you're listening to it on iTunes as well. Dave is more of the podcast aficionado of this duo, and he contends it's very important to make sure that a podcast is available offline, for anybody who's I'm not disagreeing whatsoever, that to save on data costs and whatever like that. I'm absolutely not disagreeing. It's just, how do we go about that,
We'll figure it out. You guys don't need to hear about it, so I'm not going to waste your time with it anymore.
Sure.
Take care of it.
Here you are anyways, so...
Just get on with it.
All right. So we've done a couple of episodes lately on video games, And so we wanted to focus on just another movie, and this is slightly recent, I guess. It came out last year, right?
So, yeah.
Last year, 2015.
It was not 2015. It was in the last year, I'm pretty sure.
So last year, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I think.
As you probably read on the title card, this episode is going to be all about Moana. Moana is Disney Animation Studios proper most recent movie. If you happen to tune in to our second episode where we talked about the Disney Renaissance, we briefly mentioned Moana. We didn't really talk too much about it because
we didn't talk about it much at all compared to all the other ones we talked about. Really,
at the time,
took a backseat.
Yeah, at the time when we were talking about other movies in comparison to whether or not it was a worthy of a second Disney Renaissance, we didn't have much to argue about Moana. If in the end we were going to say that it was a second Disney Renaissance, Moana would have been completely welcomed.
Yeah, it would have been part of that 100%.
So we didn't really go much further beyond that. However, that is doing it slight injustice because
it deserves to be talked about.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
So my history with the movie is that I had to kind of be coerced.
Hey, remember 2 episodes ago when I told you that I never led you astray? Guess what? I didn't lead you astray again.
You're bringing up 2 incidents, is that right?
Yeah.
2 incidents.
Yeah.
So that's 100% to you.
It's 100. Is it not 100%? Is 2 out of 2 not 100% to you?
Well, what is common knowledge?
What do you mean common? Okay. Anyway, I just wanted,
Okay, go over there with your God complex.
Wow.
I'm always right. When am I never wrong, Saul? I always give you the right.
Just saying it. I didn't lead you astray. Once more. Of course, I don't know. You sounded like you were going to talk about someone else had to coerce you a little bit, unless that was just me.
Yeah, actually, it was one of my coworkers, Pete.
Shout outs to Pete.
Yeah, we actually had we had a big Hamilton. So the play Hamilton, okay? Everybody at least probably caught whiff of the play Hamilton, whether you're a musical aficionado or not. You at least kind of know what the gist is that it's the latest Broadway sensation written by Lin-Manuel Miranda about the life of Alexander Hamilton. It was based off of a history book also too, and it was
where you got the inspiration, I think.
Yes, and the music was of a Lin-Manuel Miranda spin, which was very hip hop based, which is not common at all for Broadway, but it worked extremely well.
Yeah.
So Pete and I were on a big Hamilton fix, just listening to it over and over and over again.
I don't actually know if you're big on Hamilton?
Yeah.
Okay. My wife is really big into Hamilton too. I've enjoyed what I've heard, but I haven't we listened to the first half together and we just haven't had a chance to listen to the second half. But I've liked what I've heard. The music is definitely not what I would consider my style, but it hasn't prevented me from enjoying it.
I think that's kind of how it's been able to cross boundaries a little bit,
Yeah.
That you won't go, if you happen to go into the play, you won't, drop your monocle into your wine and be like, I say,
this is that fellow doing the hippest of hops? I've never been so incensed in my life.
You will not be doing that.
No.
And so after that, Lin-Manuel pretty much became a star, pretty much, because he was
a star on the Walk of Fame.
Wow, already?
Yeah.
Wow.
I saw this. I don't remember where. I think it was just internet banter, but Lin-Manuel Miranda and Weird Al are both getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at the same time, and they found out together while having lunch. Because that's how it goes.
Man, I want to have lunch with Weird Al.
I would love to have lunch with Weird Al.
I bet I would have nothing to say.
Probably.
Did you ever? You never watch Chris Farley on SNL, did you?
No.
He had one running segment where he would conduct interviews with high profile celebrities, but it was always just hey, Paul McCartney, do you remember when you were in the Beatles? Yes. That was awesome.
All right, well, I'll take your word for it.
I'm pretty sure I would be that with Weird Al. Do you remember when you did Eat It?
Saw Eat It in the 80s or whatever.
That was awesome.
Well, thank you. I really worked hard on it.
I am really bad with celebrities. On the very few celebrities that I've met in my lifetime, which is not very many, I am not good at meeting them.
You're big time, man.
I'm trying. What?
You're big time.
What do you mean I'm big time?
You met Aaron and Susie.
I did. How does that make me big time?
You're big time.
I was a complete fool.
Anyway, probably talk about the movie.
Oh, right? Shouldn't we? Shouldn't we?
Lin-manuel.
So, anyways, he was my connection to Moana because he was part of the songwriting or just like the music writing team of the whole movie as well. That was all I knew going into the movie. That Lin-manuel did some music for there. So I was like, okay, well that's a step up from Frozen.
Ooh, starting early.
Oh, jeez. we had discussed before this episode started that. We're going to be comparing it to Frozen quite a bit. There's some good reasons behind that. We'll get into that. Anyways, so there was that. However, I missed it in theaters for whatever reason. I didn't have much desire to watch it. I had seen previews and what have you. Oh, The Rock is playing, this big dude, and he gets a song too. Cool for him. And I think I actually saw the song too, like premiered on YouTube. And I'm like, okay, it's The Rock singing. He's clearly auto-tuned, but like he's not doing a bad job. I can't hate on the guy,
Who could hate on The Rock? What a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
I actually don't know. It seems like a great guy.
Okay, never mind. He's not a great guy. Confirmed by Gamer Dave.
I just
The Rock
don't
is
know.
not a good guy.
I don't like making statements like that. But
anyways, what happened? Like you and I were just gonna hang one day, and you were like, "You should see Moana," right?
Yeah.
How did it happen for you? How did you start on the movie?
I think my sister got it, and they either brought it up one time when they were visiting, or I just wanted to see it because it was the latest Disney animated movie, so I borrowed it or something. Yeah, I think I borrowed it, and I just watched it, and I did not even, unsurprisingly, I had much less knowledge of Lin-manuel Miranda and anything like that going. My wife did, and she told me, she's like, it's Lin-manuel Miranda, did Hamilton. I was like, great, cool, whatever. But it wasn't like, I want to see this musical that he did. It was just like, I want to see the Disney movie. And so I watched it, and we were both really, really impressed. We liked it a lot, which is when I told Saul, like, you should really see this movie. Because, it's Disney. I'm going to see it eventually. Like, why wait any longer to see a really good movie?
So we had the opportunity to hang one day, and we were just like, let's go out and get lunch. And
that's right, it was when you came over and we actually bought it because I didn't have the copy anymore.
Yeah, and I was okay with just buying the copy of the DVD. Well, no, we were going to give Dave the copy, then I was going to get the digital copy.
Is that illegal for us to tell people we did that? Nah,
whatever. We paid money for it.
Yeah, that's true. I can do what I want with my digital copy.
And so we did that. We went back to his place. We watched the movie, and I really liked it so much I watched it a second time as soon as I came home from his place. And I made sure that Bethany was watching it with me, my wife. And I really, really, really like that movie.
Yeah.
I absolutely really like that movie.
You kind of binged on it quite a bit after that. Does that happen to you?
Yes.
Okay. I was not sure if that was...
No. If there's a movie that I really, really, really love, I will binge it over and over again. I will fall asleep to it. Yeah. I will wake up. I will take a shower with it playing in the background.
Wow.
I'm intense and not in a good way. Well, that's not like a proud I'm intense.
You do you, man.
I watch Moana 15 times today.
You're not a fan unless you watched it in the shower. Get the true water experience.
The true water experience.
In 4D.
Okay. All right, that's enough.
All right.
That's
if you insist.
So one of the biggest things that I think stands out in Moana as just being good, is straight up the character herself. It's really hard nowadays going into Disney movies that are, female led without feeling like they're trying to push something down your throat,
you say it's hard with female leads, so okay, I didn't feel that way in Princess or Tangled, so did you feel like those are trying to push something down your throat?
Yes, and Princess, absolutely.
Okay.
Not as harsh as Frozen, but in Princess, they really wanted to take away the wish upon a star idea. They did that a lot.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And so that was one thing they pushed away. Tangled, okay, not so much.
Yeah.
Not so much in Tangled.
Definitely Frozen.
Definitely
Zootopia. The other ones weren't female leads, so
Big Hero and Wreck-It Ralph. Right.
Yeah.
Moana is, basically follows the same formula of a princess movie, what have you, but it virtually shoves nothing down your throat.
It all feels very natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, it never feels forced. It's this girl who doesn't necessarily want to fit into where she's supposed to, and not out of any selfish reason. It's not Ariel wanting to leave the ocean and not be daddy's singer, like, because she found some hot guy. Like, it's just, she doesn't want to do it, and because it doesn't feel like, she just has this passion for the ocean and for sailing and these things that are sort of off limits for not bad reasons. It's not like dad's just being a tyrant. He's following their age-old customs, and they have reasons for why they do things. And, eventually, the first song, I mean, we just get started.
It goes it goes a little beyond that, though, because she, like, eventually, especially after the first song, or rather during the first song, she kind of lets go of that desire a little bit.
And that was actually one of the coolest parts, I thought, of the movie, because it showed her character. She was not just a vehicle that wanted to go into the ocean to move the movie. She was a person, and the reason it establishes that from when she was young, she had this passion for the ocean, and then as she grows up, like, it does what a montage should do. It shows you how she still has that, but she realized why her place on the island was important, and she realized it, and you can tell she really cares about her family, she really cares about her island, she really cares about the people on her island, and that's why she starts doing what she does for a lot of them, why she starts filling this role that she initially doesn't want to, and she doesn't resent it. It's not like a bitterness. She does it with the right attitude, and she's just extremely likable. Like, you really root for her the whole time, and it shows who she is and explains her actions from that point on, and it's great.
When I was watching the opening song, "Where You Are," for the first time, when we were watching it together, I was really afraid this was going to be like a, I don't want to be, leader of the tribe, I just want to be in the ocean, sort of story. I mean, because that story's been done to death. I was really afraid that what was going to be. And in fact, after the song was over, I was a little like, okay, so when is this going to happen? Like, when is she going to complain? Yada, yada.
It doesn't.
Because it didn't quite hit me that, like, she had let it go at that point,
Yeah. And it's not that it wasn't still in her, but she had...
I just said let it go.
Well, if you hadn't pointed it out...
I just said let it go.
I wouldn't have even noticed. Whatever, I'm ignoring it. I'm ignoring it. So... Gosh, I'm so thrown off now. She doesn't... So you get to the end of the song, and she's just doing her thing, and she's not bitter about being a leader of this island, and it just sort of... She hasn't given up on the fact that she loves the ocean, and it just sort of... It winds up showing itself in a really weird way now that I think about it. It's just like she's learning how to be the chief, and she and her dad have a disagreement on how to deal with this one specific issue. And his sort of way of doing it is like, well, we'll just kind of wait, and I'm sure it'll fix itself. Where she's like, let's go outside. The issue is that they're not catching any fish at any of their fishing spots, and they need that for food.
Their trees are dying and stuff.
Yeah, so food is the weird stuff's going on. And so in this specific instance, they're trying to figure out, well, where are the fish? We fished everywhere where we usually do. And so Moana said, let's go past the reef, which is like the no-no zone, because then you're in open ocean and stuff like that. And the rule is you don't go past the reef. And she's not doing it because she just wants to sail, but she does it standing on a boat, holding an oar, pointing out, and her dad had like PTSD about his daughter wanting to leave and sort of flips out on her a little bit. And that sort of triggers this whole thing where she does love the ocean. That's not what she was trying to do, and it doesn't feel like she was trying to like trick her dad by being like, oh, well, we could do this to fix the problem. It really feels like she just wants to fix the problem.
Absolutely.
And she's more willing to do this than her father, because that's just like who she is, and that's where her passion is. Mm-hmm. And so that sort of starts kicking everything else back into overdrive from that point.
And that's
and then grandma.
It's just a very different way of starting a Disney princess movie in that way, especially one that maybe intentionally tried to like lead you in another direction with thinking that same old character trope was going to be it.
Yeah.
I think that was brilliant, and I think it was way more believable.
It was very elegant. I think is the best way of saying it.
Okay,
It all just flowed. It felt right. It felt good. You understood this character and you were rooting for her.
And to be fair, the character of Moana, in fact, the whole story is not an unpredictable one.
No.
Like it is. in the end, a new telling of a princess story in a way, where she is the hero. She has grown through the whole like struggle and everything like that, and she, goes through a lot of peril and yada yada. But then of course she ends up being the victor at the end of the day.
Spoilers.
Whatever, and so it's nothing new, in a way, but the character was done well. All
the characters
executed
the
very
story.
well.
Yeah.
I mean, so I guess we can start talking about the other characters too. Her sidekick, obviously, non-romantic sidekick, I must say, also
Yes.
played by
Cool.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Maui.
The Rock
Who
Johnson.
pretty much Maui, the demigod. In this case, from what I understand, Maui has different iterations in the Polynesian culture.
Based on my research, this is pretty close.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean it's Wikipedia, but I don't think that's we're in a new era where people on the internet trust Wikipedia generally.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Maui kind of starts the issue with the whole movie, basically, without going into too much detail. And pretty much Maui.
I should point out that Maui, his character and his abilities and sort of the lore behind him that he goes into more in his song, seems pretty much accurate. I don't think Te Fiti or like the Heart of Te Fiti or any of that is based in any sort of Polynesian story, but I could be wrong about that. It's not anything I found in my cursory research, so I'll just put that out there, disclaimer.
But like the powers of Maui were like accurate.
Yes, there are different iterations of him, and I think one of them, not all of them, but I think at least one of them has like shape-shifting.
Okay.
I think.
Basically, Maui is a demigod, and his whole backstory is revealed. That's a big part of his character arc too. But like his basic demigod powers is that he's obviously gigantic, so he has like a lot of super strength and whatnot. And with his magic fish hook, which is also his weapon, he can shapeshift into a variety of different animals, and he does that like he can be a soaring eagle, he can be a little bug, he can be a shark head. So like that's his power and whatnot. But like he's also 1,000 years old or more.
Well, he's immortal, I think.
Oh yeah, okay. So he knows stuff and he does things basically.
Yeah.
Maui comes off as being the very cocky sort of, I'm a demigod, so
And
of course
you're not.
and you're not. Yeah, essentially. He in the beginning definitely seems like he's only in it for himself as far as like the whole movie goes.
I love that too. Probably one of my favorite things about Maui. I kind of want to talk about the songs now, but you can
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I mean, just like this song, in his song specifically, one of my favorite things is that they described him in the beginning as like a trickster god, which is a really big part of a lot of old like mythology and stuff. There's these trickster characters, and so they really, as his song "You're Welcome" goes on, you can sort of hear that Moana's totally into it. She's having a good time because it's a fun song or whatever. And you can hear that he's leading up to the part where he's going to like take her boat and just leave her there.
Yeah.
And then he just sort of leads her into the cave. Is like, all right, bye. And just closes the door behind her.
Gosh.
And it communicates. It was really cool seeing that they weren't just like, yeah, he's a trickster god and just sort of left it at that, never touched it. But like he does that a lot, and it's great.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That song was also really good too. That was one of the first songs I heard from the movie before I saw the whole movie at first. And that song is very similar to a song in Hamilton, which is also comedic. It's called "You'll Be Back." You should just look it up.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
It sounds incredibly similar to it, so that's why I was like, this is definitely like a Lin-manuel Miranda joint. It's a good song, and I think The Rock does it well too. I mean, I know he's auto-tuned. He never professes that he's an awesome singer, but you know what? Not every
performed it well.
Yeah, not every performer has to be the greatest singer. If you are awesome, but if you can just hold a pitch, basically,
helps, yeah.
and just have a good performance out of it, and his is a very good performance. So I had no issues with that. Some people did, and I think some people expected me to have issues about that because I normally do have issues about stuff like that.
I wondered. I didn't have any issues with it, but you have a much more discerning ear than I do.
Yeah, because like I have issues with movies like the most recent iteration of Les Miserables. How much of a huge deal.
A lot of people had issues with that.
Well, yeah, like they made a gigantic, huge deal over. Oh, the actors were actually singing, and they actually did it on set. So it was like, okay, why don't I just see it in the play then? Huh?
Yeah, that's
why don't I
true.
just actually see it on play? And how about this? They weren't even that great. Not all of them. They weren't bad, but like some of it was like uncomfortable. Russell Crowe.
Ah, there it is. We were all thinking it. You said it. We're here now.
Bad.
Bad.
Just bad. Hugh Jackman has had a history on like the stage.
There's a bright golden haze on the meadow.
Particularly, Dave and I know him in as Curly from Oklahoma.
It was great.
Oh boy,
I like. What are you? It was good.
he just has a very distinct way of singing. And he only has one distinct way of singing,
Fair enough.
and that's what he brought to Les Mis also as he was Jean Valjean, yeah. Anne Hathaway, sure, okay. Although I Dreamed the Dream was really uncomfortable because it was just like only a shot of her face like crying and stuff, which was just uncomfortable to me. But that's not normally what people beat on about the movie.
Anyway,
I just don't like it as a big selling point. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they did this, we're automatically great. You know, like. That's the sense I got from there. You don't get that sense from Moana, going back to over here. You know what I mean? And I had no issue at all. Matter of fact, I really like that song, and I really like The Rock's performance as well. Some other songs come up like that are kind of a joint effort from Lin-manuel, the Polynesian, basically Polynesian rock star that they got to help him out with. His name was like Opataya something. Dave's gonna look it up so I don't disrespect him. And I absolutely want to respect this man.
Yeah, he did a good job.
He did a great job. I think.
I will say I looked him up singing one of these songs, and I was like, oh well, at least he was auto-tuned in the movie.
Oh boy.
But it was not a great performance.
Oh
but
boy.
You can't have everything. But until we find his name, so we kind of skipped a song. If you want to go back, I mean, we didn't talk too much. I mean, do you want to hit all the songs one by one and talk about them, or you want to talk about the movie?
Why don't we do that?
more?
Why don't we get that out of the way?
Yeah, right.
So we talked about Where You Are. It's a great intro song. Shows Moana growing up from a child to a teenager, and as we said before, also shows the turn away from Moana only caring about herself and what she wants, and understanding her responsibility to the tribe, which is gigantic. I think visually it's done well, and in the music it's done very well too, I think.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that when your wife watched it, she commented on the fact that the lyrics were not great throughout the majority of that song.
There's a couple of lines where somebody will say a lead line and then like the chorus or like the choir will like repeat it right after, but they don't really mesh well together, so it just sort of sounds like two people talking over each other.
Yeah, and I agree, some of the lyrics don't flow super well. Some of the rhymes, I think they rhyme with the same word a couple times, which is always a little bit, it's like, I don't know, and it's, you could do better.
Yeah. Surely you could have.
But it's super catchy, and it's super fun, and it's super good.
The next song is the flagship song, basically. Every princess has to have her own song, and this one was How Far I'll Go, and this one was good. I really like Aulani Carvalho.
Yeah, let me make sure you're not butchering that one too.
Man, I'm just the worst, aren't I?
Yeah, Ali'i.
Sheesh.
Carvalho,
wow.
yeah.
Pardon me, please.
I'm sorry, it's important.
I'm not being sarcastic.
Oh, okay.
I really want to make sure I'm respecting these people.
I actually have a harder time pronouncing her last name. It's Carvalho, I think. Carvalho.
Okay.
I don't know if the H is silent.
She was basically found as a casting call for all in Hawaii and like other Polynesian
which is cool.
areas. Yeah, and she's literally an unknown. Yeah, but she came out of the woodworks. That's another
thing I felt like they did a good job of without rubbing in your face. Is almost everyone in this movie has Polynesian descent who's like playing characters.
Yeah.
Which was just like, they didn't make a big deal of it up front, but it was cool, and the movie never suffers for it. So it's neat. Very neat.
She has a really awesome singing voice too, I think. She never belts out, and to be fair, the song doesn't really like necessitate her to just like belt out and scream, which is awesome. I think the song is pretty catchy too. I don't know if I'd say it's the best princess song out there. It's probably not, but it is good, I think.
It is lower on my list in this movie. It's not one that I would very often flip to, like if I'm listening to the soundtrack,
I think it's still very catchy though.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not.
And to be honest, like, if we were to say like, is it better than Let It Go? I don't know.
Yeah, as like a standalone song, I don't know.
Yeah. I would almost say it's not, if you're going to compare them song to song.
Yeah.
Because Let It Go is more energetic, is more epic.
Yeah.
Has less words, because How Far I'll Go is like, ba-da-da, 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 ba-da, ba-da. Let It Go is just da-da-da, da-da-da, like.
Yeah, it's much simpler and easier to, I don't know, get
Yeah.
an earworming in your head, I guess.
Now they did make poor Idina Menzel belt the crap out of that last
That's
note,
her
though.
job, man. That's why we hired her.
Man, I feel so bad for her.
Well,
She nailed it in the studio, but like, I can't imagine how like doing it live, how she's not just like, I can't believe I had to.
I can't believe they made me do this. I did not think this decision through.
So then the next song that appears up in Moana is sort of when Moana is realizing her ancestry and like how they used to be.
yeah.
That song is called "We Know the Way."
I love that
Yes,
song.
that song
It
is
is
such
so
a good song.
All right, let me pull up his name. His name is Opatea Fawai.
Okay,
I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Very
but
good, very awesome, sir. Very
thanks.
good.
Thanks.
The song was
It was performed by him as well. He's the one voicing that guy.
he voices the man actually speaking in the Polynesian language.
Yes.
But then Lin-manuel sings the English portion of it.
Oh, really? I didn't actually know that.
Oh no, I recognized it right away just because of how much Hamilton I've heard. That song was. Have you ever watched the music special features behind that?
No.
That was the first song that they wrote for the movie. Yeah.
Oh, I did know that was originally going to be the opener before they went with, I don't remember the name of the song. We were
Where
just
You
listening
Are.
to it. No, the opener. So at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Where they had sort of all the Polynesian, which is beautiful, by the way.
Yes.
I'll go back to that really quick. This movie, I feel like, successfully did what I thought Frozen was going to do based on its opening.
Yeah.
They both open with a song that feels very appropriate to the setting they're putting out there. And so you assume, like, oh, I'm going to get this really cool Norwegian vibe throughout the whole movie. And Frozen, like, completely abandons that after the first song.
I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah, Moana just hits it completely. They start out with that, and neither one of them is, like, a big song. Like, they're not going to be the ones that people perform necessarily. But they start with this very... They feel like they're setting a tone. And Frozen really did, like, even when I just first saw it, I was like, yeah, this is where we're going, and it didn't. And I didn't really make this connection with Moana until recently, but I was like, yeah, they tried to do the same thing here with Moana, and they did it. Like, they actually stuck with this Polynesian feel throughout the entire movie, and I'm sure that was somewhat intentional. Like, there's a perception with Disney that they are trying to really focus on getting these sort of I don't know,
They're trying to be culturally sensitive.
They're trying to be culturally sensitive,
Yeah.
and so they're trying to, like, focus on this Polynesian culture that isn't necessarily well known by people. And that's, I don't want to say that's easier to do than like a Norwegian thing, but like a Norwegian thing, it's easy to be like, it's just white people, like, whatever. Like, you know, I honestly think that was probably in the back of their mind. They're like, all right, like, we don't have to, like, really do this because, like, you know, we won't seem like super culturally sensitive to show like Norwegian stuff. But, like, I think that was part of it, not to be like Mr. like, oh, they only did it to get attention or whatever. But
Right.
they did it. They should have done it for Frozen, and they did do it here, and the movie worked out so much better because of it.
Right.
As a whole, like, the music
Completely
as a
agree.
whole worked so much better.
So we're
Anyway, that song is awesome, and I want to learn the alternate language, the Polynesian words to that song, just
Yeah.
because they sound so cool.
going back to "We Know the Way," which is the song that has Opetaya in it and Lin-manuel singing. This is the first joint venture between them and the score composer, which is Mark Mancina. They wrote that song basically first, and if you have the DVD, check out the special features on the music. It's really awesome just seeing how the three of them were just so amped up to do this and to do it justice. You know, all of them, and I think they did. "We Know the Way" I think is still my favorite song in the whole movie.
I agree, actually.
And unfortunately, it's only there for like a minute and a half.
Yeah, that's the only thing I don't like about it, is that it's too short.
Yeah.
I feel like that happens all the time where I'll like fall in love with a song. It's like, wait, why is this only like 2 minutes? Like, wow. Like, I want to, so I just got to listen to it on repeat, but then I don't know, it doesn't maintain the magic as much.
I know.
Yeah.
The next song is "You're Welcome," which is a Maui song.
That is the next most likely song. Well, I don't know. The first song is, I'm pretty likely to put on repeat, but "You're Welcome" is just so fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's just so fun. And The Rock really sells it.
The next song after that is, I guess, what you would consider a villain song. There is a villain in Moana, but it's not like a Jafar or an Ursula by any means. In fact,
Scar.
or Scar. Like the villain in this movie.
Well, there are kind of a couple.
like a main villain, like, you know what I mean? Like there isn't a Jafar.
No, there is not a main villain, but there are a couple of characters who act as the villains.
Yeah, and so this particular villain gets a song. It's a giant crab named Tamatoa, voiced by Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords fame.
Who has Polynesian ancestry? Did not know that.
I didn't know that either. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's
they're like
Kiwi.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so he sings a song quite randomly too, and it's a little tongue in cheek,
jarring.
Yeah.
Like when the song happened, I barely understood what was happening. I was like, whoa, this is a song now. Like, all right,
yeah.
Its placement in the movie is very forced. Is that fair? Is that a little strong?
No, I think you're right. I'd say so. It is kind of like if the song didn't exist in the movie, I think it still would have been okay.
Yeah.
If there was another song placed somewhere else, you know.
Which isn't to say the song is bad.
No, absolutely not. The song is meant to be a sort of tribute to Lin-Manuel Miranda has said that he wrote that song specifically to sound like Flight of the Conchords because he knew Jermaine Clement was going to do it, and also to kind of throw back to David Bowie a little bit, and this was before he passed away too, and I think he achieved that. It doesn't necessarily mean I like the song that much. I love the scene. There's some wonderful visuals happening in that scene.
Yes.
And an important note for Maui's character development too. But the song has grown on me.
It really does. Like the first time, my wife and I both read. The first time we heard it, we were like, "Well, I'm okay never hearing that song again." And then we kind of heard it again, and we're like, "Wait, that's kind of catchy. Like, did I just need to see it outside the context of the movie?" Like, and then we listened to it again. Like, yeah, I'm enjoying this. Like, without the really jarring start of it, and it really, if you haven't seen it, it feels really jarring. Like you're just like in the scene, all of a sudden, like, oh, we're singing. Like I feel like I already missed like half the song. Like not half the song, but you missed the intro lines because you're like so jarred by the fact that he's suddenly like singing in tone, and you're just like, oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's a fine song on its own. It's fun. It's very cheesy. Like I would say, it is definitely a guilty pleasure if you're listening to that song multiple times. Like is the best way I would say.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like I've been caught with I have been caught with that song being stuck in my head incessantly.
Yeah,
I'll be like, I remember like I went out to dinner with Bethany one time, and then I just put in my iPhone, found the song. She's like, can't we at least listen to like a good song from the movie? And I was like, I'm sorry.
There's like 4 other ones. I was like, you can pick one.
I was like, I'm sorry. It's just stuck in my head. I have to get it out. We listened to the whole right down also.
Gosh. Like, sorry, Bethany.
Oh, so that's the last original song in the movie, because then there's a reprise it's a reprise of is it a combo?
It is
it's a slight combo of the first song of the movie of Where You Are and the princess song How Far I'll Go.
Oh yeah, that one. Sorry, I was one song.
Yeah. Which is sort of Moana's her reinvigorating to finish her quest, Yeah. I thought that was done well. That was I thought
it was really good.
That's the one time that Moana does get to belt, and I think she did it well because she's not shouting, she's belting, and I think I think there's a big distinction behind that too.
That scene, I want to call it that scene. That scene made me cry.
Oh, did it?
Oh, okay. That scene really got to me.
Oh.
I don't want to spoil. Oh, do we care about spoiling this? I'm not sure.
You can say it.
I mean, yeah, it's just like when Grandma comes back, and you're just like, Grandma's such an emotional she's like the emotional focus of this movie, just sort of being this mentor to her. And I thought the way they handled her was really good. Mm-hmm. They never make it so that she's forcing this on Moana. It's just I know this is what you want to do. You know what this is you want to do, and you need to know that that's okay. Mm-hmm. Even though the rest of it kind of says it isn't. And so, she's the tide of the past. She's the sage or whatever. But it was really good, and just sort of it's at a low point. It's the classic, the low point where everything looks like it's failed and nothing can go right. Yeah. It's kind of but it's all done really well. And there are a lot of really intricacies in that whole scene that I could get into that I thought were really deep and meaningful and good. So if you want, we can come back to it. But
because the last 2 songs is a reprise of the very first song we hear in the movie, which is a Polynesian song, a Polynesian name. So I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. It's beautiful though.
Yeah.
Moana herself sings it, and then it's a reprise of where you are at the end.
Yes.
The very end of the movie. No. I'm sorry.
It's not
We Know the Way.
We Know the Way. Yeah.
They both begin with W's. I mean.
Okay.
So the music, great music. I give it a 9. I give it a solid 9 out of 10. Honestly.
Yeah.
It is now officially one of my favorite Disney soundtracks.
Yeah,
it's not my favorite Disney soundtrack.
I'm not sure if I'm ready to assign numbers to it just right off the top of my head.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, you mean like an out of 10 number?
10,
okay.
Yeah, but I don't have any issues with it. If you put this on in the car, I'm like, yeah, man, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's pretty complete too. Like we talked about kind of our issues with Shiny, but there's no songs where I'm just like, skip this one, like whatever, you know?
Yeah, you know what? That's true. I wouldn't skip Shiny.
Yeah, it's true. You might regret not skipping it later when it's stuck in your head, but yeah, it's not like when you hear it, you want to skip it.
No, that's very true.
Yeah.
So what are these intricacies you're kind of talking about here in the story?
I really feel like the way that they developed Moana was so good. I felt like the worldview that they were sort of espousing here was so smart. It's kind of hard not to talk about this without talking about my personal beliefs and like my worldview. So I mean, I'll just say it. We're both evangelical Christians, so that's sort of the worldview we're working with. And a lot of the stuff that they showed in this movie is like, I don't think this was intentional, but it lines up very well with a lot of sort of Christian thought. I'll jump back to the first time when I really like saw it. When Maui and Moana are climbing up the mountain to get to where they eventually run into Tamatoa, they're talking about like, why did they send you? Like, why did your village send you? And like, well, my village didn't send me. They didn't want to go, but the ocean, it gave me the heart, and it sent me on its way. And Maui's kind of like, okay, the ocean, like, yeah, that's great. Like, the ocean doesn't know what it's talking about. Like, why would it choose you? Why are you special? Like, why didn't the ocean just do it on its own? And I was just like, isn't that an interesting thing to say from my perspective? Because don't we often sort of hear that criticism like, well, why doesn't God just do this, or why doesn't God doesn't know what he's doing, kind of thing? And
ever made that connection.
Yeah, I got that immediately, and I was just like, isn't that an interesting sort of thing they're putting out there? Like, not even that I think they were doing that, but it really is sort of this message of you're believing in something that's bigger than yourself, even when it doesn't necessarily make sense. And that eventually leads to her believing in herself a bit more, because she starts trusting that she was chosen for a reason. Going forward again to sort of how the ocean operates, in that scene where she's ready to give up or whatever, she gives the heart back. She's like, take this. Like, I don't want this anymore. And at first the ocean's like, no, this is yours. I gave it to you. But she insists, and she took it back. And I feel like that's also just a really interesting picture of, this is getting a little deep, and it's just something my wife pointed out, but it's just like, sometimes God won't take it from you, but if you're like giving it to him, like, he's not going to force you to keep doing it, type thing. That's just sort of a theological thing. And yeah, just a lot of stuff like that. And just how when she tries to turn back, Grandma's like, if you want to go back, like, you can. Like, I'm not going to stop you. Like, it's fine. And that, I feel like God kind of does that with us a lot of times too, where it's not like you're missing out. It's your choice. Like, she would have missed out on a lot if she had turned around, obviously, but it was never like the ocean. It's the ocean. Like, it could have just pushed her towards there and been like, do it. Like, you need to do it. Like, Grandma knows this needs to happen, or bad stuff will happen to her island and everywhere else, but she's not being a jerk about it and be like, you know how important this is. Like, go do it. Like, stop wimping out. Like, it's just like, it was, Grandma loved her. Grandma loved her, and she knew that she was able to do it, and she knew her heart, and knew that, like, I think she kind of knew that she wouldn't be able to turn around, but it wasn't out of a manipulative thing. It was just like, I know you, and if you want to turn around, I'm still going to love you. Like, I'm still going to be your grandma, even though I'm technically dead or whatever. Spoiler. But, just stuff like that was just really small stuff that it was just like, what you're saying, what you're communicating through this is really good. It's really smart. It is really valuable. And it's stuff like that that really gets me. It's stuff like that pushes Princess and the Frog and Tangled, to as high as they are, in my opinion, too, is because there are also little things like that where there's sort of these small interactions, but they mean a lot. So those are just some of the scenes that really got to me. And since I said that Grandma died, I'll say that I cried at that too. So,
I liked it when the rooster fell in the water, and it was just funny. That's what I liked about the
you did
movie.
really like that animation. You commented on that where he like slams the door.
Yeah, I the rooster was funny.
It was funny. Ha ha ha. Those are funny times. Did you like the shark head joke too?
Yeah, the shark is funny. Yeah, the shark
I actually
head.
didn't like that. Well, there were a few Maui jokes that sort of like immediately de-immersed me, and I was like, why? Why did you do the tweeting
Yeah, the
joke?
tweeting joke. Yeah, that, I mean, like, you know what? When that happened, I was definitely afraid of a pop culture.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
like
sort
the
of,
new genie, but like bad.
Yeah. But you know what? That only happens a few times in the movie, so it doesn't take you away from the immersion that much. Since we were talking about that, the humor in this movie is done super well. I think the humor is done super, super well. The one thing that we thought was kind of interesting, and this is not really significant, is that in the beginning of the movie, Moana clearly has this like small little pig sidekick. Its name is Pua.
Yeah, that's right.
In fact, it's even kind of a part of some of the struggle and like before like the plot really kind of goes on. And the pig is cute. Clearly looks like it could be good like plushy material, right?
Sell that merchandise, baby.
But when
You would swear, I would have sworn, I was like, oh, the pig's gonna wind up on the boat with her, like obviously. You know,
when
she
the
leaves.
journey actually happens, the pig is not on the boat with her.
Never
It is
shows up
instead
again,
this
basically.
really dumb rooster named Hey Hey.
Yeah.
That side note, voiced by Alan Tudyk, by the
Yeah,
way.
that's their new shtick, is where they have to have him in every.
They're trying to be
what's
Pixar.
what's the name of the guy?
John
in Pixar?
Ratzenberger. Yeah. But this rooster is freaking hilarious. He's just dumb, right? Like you see him eating rocks. Maui keeps on trying to fatten him up to eat him, but like he never actually eats the food. He just like keeps pecking like outside of the food. And there's several times where he just falls into the ocean because he doesn't know where he is, so he just walks off the boat as if there's like still things there. And eventually the ocean just like can't stand it and just like grabs himself, or the ocean by itself, shoves him inside of like the little cabbie and just like locks the cabinet, and just like
You were really taken by how it shook after it did that.
because it was
very
brilliant.
subtle.
You know, I remember hearing like, you know, Ego Raptor kind of talking about like one of like the basic art school things is to like animate a bag of sand
sandbag,
and give it personality, right? They gave a wave looking thing personality there, you know? Because the ocean is pretty much God in this movie, or a god, I guess.
Yeah, it is sort of the driving mystical force, so to speak.
And to see, you know, another dimension of not just like actual like annoyance over this that is still my favorite scene in the movie, and how much character they were able to give a stupid wave of water, you know, is brilliant to me. It's not like Disney has never done stuff like that before, but when it's good, you know?
And you can certainly parlay that right into complimenting all the water animation.
Oh my goodness.
Which is, it's notoriously difficult to do, but it all looks gorgeous.
All looks gorgeous.
It's all really good.
It all looks very natural, you know?
Yeah. And the colors are so good. The colors are so tropical and so just peaceful.
Yeah, it's very like saturated, so like it feels like you're looking at like a postcard of Hawaii the whole time. In a good way too, you know? There's like obviously lots of blues, like for the sky and for the ocean, greens for the trees, and God, I'm not gonna
not gonna encourage this behavior.
No, I can't continue on when I know you're just gonna keep doing that.
No, I'm done. It's good.
Yeah, so the animation design is wonderful in there. I think like you know, we had marveled during the second Disney Renaissance episode that the animation in Tangled was impeccable, like absolutely impeccable, especially when it comes to facial features and facial structures, expressions and whatnot. That is my personal favorite part of Tangled. Tangled's animation. Moana's, I mean, does that too. You know, by now they've definitely sort of perfected their Disney style of animation, because like Moana definitely looks like a new Disney styled like princess, you know, with the big eyes and yada yada, you know.
Like I said before, she looks very Rapunzel, but they do enough with her face to make it so it's not as bad as like Elsa or Anna.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. Like, one thing you could definitely say about the animation is I feel like in each of these sort of three movies, Tangled, Frozen, and Moana, they really tried to focus on sort of one thing where they're like, we're going to make this look really good. And this is sort of the motif. So in Moana, it's a lot of the water and that tropical feel. I mean, Frozen, it was obviously ice and trying to get that real nice ice animation, stuff like that. And
Nice
in
ice.
Tangled, it was a lot of like light and a lot of these sort of purple colors and things like that.
Okay,
I think light is probably the biggest
because like
one.
the fire lanterns and stuff too.
Yeah, and also facial animations, obviously, but they were really good.
Really good.
But yeah, it's cool, and it's neat having that sort of thematic thing really carry through and just have them animated so well. It's just fun to watch.
I will say probably one of the best things rather that I really liked about Moana is the relationship between Moana and Maui.
It's good.
It is there's not even a single like inkling or like a joke
Thank goodness.
about it being romantic, you know. Not even like in passing like, oh, are you two together? Like, ew, no, you know, anything like that.
Yeah.
They never mention it at all. They don't even bring it up like at all. The whole thing is very much a big brother little sister sort of relationship, and it works super super well.
Yeah, and again, they didn't have to shove it down your throat that they're not dating, which is something that they went way out of their way to do in Frozen. And in this one, they're just like, you know, instead of pointing this out, why don't we just have a male character and a female character, and they can just be their own characters? Like, wow, what a concept! Like, I wonder if people will like it. It's good.
I mean, that's all you can say. It's good. They didn't shove it down your throat.
Yeah.
Very good chemistry. Yeah. Like, and again, it very much just seems like brother and sister, you know, I think that's what it's like meant to be like, you know. I think a lot of their interactions, like when she's like forcing him to train her how to you know sail properly and stuff like that. I mean, like the actress who did Moana, I'm not going to say her name again just because I don't want to butcher it.
We respect her too much.
Seriously, she did a really really awesome job in voice acting.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
Voice
She
acting
did.
is not the same as on stage acting or on screen acting. Like it's a different world, and I think she did it like an absolute natural, you know, like I mean, that's all I can say is that like she did like an absolute natural. Everything that came out of her mouth or the character's mouth just seemed so natural, like she had been doing this for decades.
Yeah, like I never felt like this was just some no name that they got, you know. I'm not the kind of person who like pays attention too much to actors and stuff like that and names, but I never felt like she was any hindrance on this movie at all. I didn't feel like she was out of place next to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or any other voice actors they had.
You
in
know
this
what?
movie.
That's definitely true. He never overshadows her.
No, and it would have been kind of easy because Maui's a very strong character. He's really funny, and it's easy to, you know, it would have been kind of easy to do that, but it just never happened.
Well, they do a good job of breaking him apart, also of like tearing away the facade, kind of, sort of, you know.
And he's
like,
not. His character is not as deep as Moana either. He gets development, but it is definitely not at the same level that Moana does. So they do a good job of making sure that he grows and he's not just static big funny man or whatever. But it's it does a good job of keeping Moana front and center where she belongs.
I agree.
Yeah.
It definitely keeps the balance where it should be for that.
Yeah.
Moana just ended up, I mean, overall, Moana as a movie as a whole just ended up being one of the best Disney movies I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah.
I did not care as much, shouldn't, you know, because that doesn't mean like I hate it. I did not care as much as Dave did for both Zootopia or Wreck-It Ralph. You know, I don't hate those movies. I definitely do not hate those movies, but I'm not going to be, you know, excited to be watching it anytime soon, to be perfectly honest, right? Moana, though, I'm going to watch that any day, essentially. I can watch that any day.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just want to mention this offhand. My wife was home, I think it was last week, just like whatever. Oh, she was sick because we were supposed to go to like a wedding reception and I went and she didn't. And I got home and there was Wreck-It Ralph by her desk. I was like, did you just want to watch Wreck-It Ralph? She's like, yeah, I did. I was like, I love you.
How nice.
But it was nice. That's why I don't love you. Anyway.
I already knew that, Dave. And I don't care for that
Seemed
anyways.
like the good opportunity. But I agree, Moana, like soon after I saw Moana, my wife and I were flying out to Detroit to visit family. And on our way out, not on our way back for whatever reason, they had those like TVs in the back of the seats and you could like pick a movie. And I was like, I didn't expect this luxury. Like, what am I gonna watch? And so I just saw Moana was on there. Like, am I just gonna, put Moana and listen to the songs? And like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So I did it. We had one layover and we got on the next plane and they had the same thing. And I watched the whole thing again. And then I found Planet Earth 2 and started watching that a little bit. And I was a little sad that I didn't find that earlier because I would have watched the rest of it just because I wouldn't get the opportunity otherwise.
Yeah,
but,
that's a hard choice.
yeah, and then I was really excited to get on the planes home and watch it, but they didn't have them. And I was really disappointed.
So, I mean, I don't think I can assign a numerical rate. I mean, I can for the soundtrack, but I don't think I can for the movie because that's putting it up against a lot of other Disney movies. That
it feels like you have to like compare it up to another bunch of other Disney movies. But I mean,
we've been comparing it to Frozen just because, like, I think we
actually kind of avoided doing that more than I thought we'd be able to. But
well, good. I mean, I don't want to bore you guys. Like, I mean, Moana and Frozen are like the most closely related because Moana is nothing like Wreck-It Ralph Moana is nothing like Big Hero 6 or Zootopia, and nor is Frozen. So like those are both the princess movies that have come lately from Disney. Yeah. So it's easy to compare those two, and it kind of adds a little bit more fuel to our really old and stale hate of Frozen. Yeah. That like Moana didn't really seem to get as much acclaim as Frozen did.
It felt like to me, and this might just be perception, it felt like to me it got more than Tangled did, but still less than Frozen.
Yeah, do you think Tangled is just this giant martyr, don't you?
I mean, died on the sacrifice, the altar of Frozen.
This will be an episode for later years of Dave just thinking that Tangled just got like stabbed in the back somewhere, and even about to call it a cult classic, in which I had to shout in his face for that.
Did I really say that?
You did call it a cult classic, and I was like, oh man, you need to be put in your place.
Yeah, I was wrong about that. But I don't want to get into that too much.
Not yet.
I mean, there's not many movies that I would like put head and shoulders above Moana. That's including the Disney Renaissance. I should specify Disney movies. There's not many Disney movies that I would put head and shoulders above Moana, including the Disney Renaissance. If you put it up against these other Disney Renaissance movies that I've mentioned before that I just really, really love, or like Tangled, it's not an immediate snap pick for any of them. Like, I feel like Moana goes toe to toe with any of those for me.
Like, you hold Aladdin in high regard, right?
Yeah.
So if for example, if you put those toe to toe.
Oh, that's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little bit of recency bias, because the first thing that popped into my head was like, well, I'd rather listen to the soundtrack from Moana, and then I was like, that is not true at all. Like, so it's been a while since I watched Aladdin, but I don't know. It's really interesting, sort of comparing how I feel about Princess and the Frog, Tangled, and Moana versus like Mulan, Aladdin, and Lion King, because I feel like now that I'm older, I actually have a better appreciation for some of these movies. And so the movies that I saw when I was a kid, they feel like they lose a little bit of their magic, because I just kind of watched them as a kid, and like they're great and I love them. But I feel like I really appreciate what they're doing in these new movies. So I almost like the newer ones better, and it's hard to, not necessarily because they are better, but just because, I don't know, I feel like I appreciate them a little bit more fully now that I'm older and I'm watching them like I am, which is interesting. But
I'd
put it in like top 7 pretty easily. You know?
I probably do too. I straight up would not be able to ever compare it up to a Disney Renaissance movie.
It's actually really hard.
Well, I have too much of a nostalgia bias, and you know this.
Yeah.
I care way too much about nostalgia.
I mean, it's kind of this. It's different, but it's the same. Where we recognize that we appreciate these movies very differently, just based on when we saw them first.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting. Yeah, interesting conundrum.
Well, overall, Moana was Disney's still latest, princess movie and like movie proper. And it is Disney, so a ton of people have seen it. If you were like myself and were kind of like, complacent upon seeing it, really, was that?
On the fence.
On the fence, yeah, exactly. That's what I was. I really implore you to go and see it. Enjoy it with your family. And of course, it's obviously family friendly.
Yeah.
The songs are super catchy.
Yeah, your kids will like the shark head joke, if nothing else.
your kids will think it's hilarious.
Those did not do it for me. They took me out. Those are some other things that kind of took me out, but whatever.
I mean, it's Disney, so they know when to keep in the adults and they know when to rake in the kids also too. So
Yep.
Of course that's done super well. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you really should. Essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, we love the movie. We've spent about an hour gushing on it.
Yeah, I mean, we try to be fair, and like we tend to just gush about the things we love and just bash the things we don't like. But I guess maybe that's just natural. But I can't really think of anything that stuck out to me where I was like, we try to be fair and we want to give credit where it's due for the things we don't like and sort of, make it clear that these aren't perfect. But I can't think of anything really in particular to criticize about this movie. That's not true. I can't think of one thing. There are a couple parts in the middle. If you want to divide this movie into your typical Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, I think Act 2 is a little weak. I think sort of from the point they leave Maui's island to the point where everything sort of falls apart, it's a little meh.
What, because of the coconut things?
Kind of. I literally forgot that they existed for the majority of this podcast. And when you can forget like a major scene like that, it's supposed to be like, oh, actiony. It's like, I think that was another thing that's kind of aimed towards the kids because they're like these goofy little coconuts and all their
like
actions.
Minions,
Yeah, kind of. Like their actions are all very like exaggerated where they like pull these weapons out of like hammer space and you're just like, it's all very goofy. And it's just like, it doesn't really do anything for the plot necessarily. And then you have like, I mean, we sort of expressed some of our misgivings about Tamatoa and some of his music and stuff like that, and it's not bad, but there's parts in there where it's not. You're never like, all right, like, well, maybe during the coconut guy scenes, you're kind of like, all right, we'll get on with it, but it's just not as gripping as Act 1 and 3. And Acts 1 and 3 are really, really good, and Act 2 is just sort of like, okay,
yeah. So I mean, that's all that just say that the movie's not perfect, right? Yeah. It's awesome. It's very good, but it ain't perfect.
We need to be better about putting the stuff we don't like in the middle, so we don't like gush on it and then like end on the bad stuff. And we're like, is it really that good? You know what I mean?
Right. I think you're right.
Yeah, but because I don't want to give the impression that there was ever a point in this movie where I was not enjoying myself.
Well, I think we also need to probably start talking about movies that we don't particularly enjoy either.
Well, you would love that, wouldn't you?
I would love in the future for us to rewatch The Road to El Dorado. I would love for us to maybe even rewatch.
We were gonna try that today, but it just didn't work out.
To maybe even rewatch Frozen.
We'll do it.
At some point,
saving that.
At some point, we're definitely also gonna rewatch. And probably the both of us together, gonna rewatch Wreck-It Ralph to see if I can turn around on that. Same with Zootopia. Probably like when the Wreck-It Ralph sequel is about to come out.
You like Zootopia better than Wreck-It Ralph, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
I don't know how dramatically, but yeah, I'd say so. Okay. To be fair, I've seen Zootopia only once, and that was in the theaters.
How about Big Hero 6?
Oh, I keep forgetting about Big Hero 6. That's the thing.
I think I asked you this question before after we saw Zootopia, and we had one of our fantastic conversations that it was really a shame we didn't record then. But
yeah, poor Cheap Weasel was just like,
he's like, I was at that conversation. I could have made it big. I could have been with it, big as we're making it now. We'll have you on, Jeremy. I'm giving you my word. We'll figure it out,
dude. You just revealed his name on the air.
Whatever.
A whole our fan is going to be they're going to dox him now. Whatever.
Okay.
So thank you for joining us on this podcast. Thank you for being here with us as we gushed over and over Moana. Hopefully, if you've already seen the movie, you found stuff to agree upon with us, and maybe you'll be like me, who's just going to start listening to the soundtrack immediately as soon as we're done recording this. Or I'm probably just going to end up watching it. Let's be honest. I'm probably just going to watch it again because I'm just going to watch it again.
Yeah, I don't actually have that soundtrack on my iPhone or my iPod, so I'll have to listen to something else.
I can burn you a CD real quick, I think.
I'll figure it out.
No, I can't. I don't have any blank CDs because this is the 20th century. No, it's not.
CDs.
So let's.
Anyway.
So with that, I think we can call this an episode, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you again for listening to this, our 5th episode of the Why Do I Talk to You podcast. We again want to extend a special thanks to Danny Barrett-Huvert for providing the art for us. And again, special thanks to the combined efforts of OC Remix, Rob KTA, XPRT Novice for the wonderful intro and outro music. Hopefully we will be out on social media or some sort of shareable form where you can spread the word of us, or at least tell people, listen to these guys, they're bad, aren't they?
Bad, lol.
Yeah,
you'll be listening to us, the joke's on you.
If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe if you care to.
It helps us a lot.
It absolutely helps us a lot. And we will catch you on the next episode.
Take care.